You're trying to get her pregnant. You're manifesting pregnancy.
I'm just helping a sister out, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so this is what my book looks like. It's got all sorts of fun little notes and all the things. And then I know, Melissa, you didn't get the physical book. You got the audio. And it wasn't of this, it was of the actual Emerald tablets. So I'm really kind of excited to like compare notes. So anyway, welcome to March 2023's QBC Quantum Book Club, where we're going to talk about the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, or just the Emerald Tablets in general. And so I say we dive in. And I know, Sonia, you're here to just kind of like listen as well as input whatever inspiration comes through, because you didn't end up, so you're here to glean the
Or make
knowledge.
somebody laugh.
Yeah, or make your basic
Oh, see, look, it already happened.
comedic relief. Yeah.
Which is honestly good, because this content is like so out there.
Oh, that sounds like me. So perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so like when I first, so the very first chapter, he just comes out, he comes out shooting with this is the first sentence. I believe the Emerald Tablets represent the writing of an alien entity named Thoth. The written and physical evidence left on Earth, especially where the Emerald Tablets are concerned, supports that an alien force has purposely engaged with and powerfully influenced mankind. And my notes say, we are aliens. We only know this when interacting with other galactic beings. So that's what Melissa meant by like, this is way out there, because we start talking aliens and such, but it's kind of like when you go to a foreign country and then you learn, you're like, oh yeah, I have an accent. I didn't realize I had an accent. And you learn you have one by interacting. It's kind of the same thing. I feel like we are that alien species. We just didn't get the memo, because we label ourselves human. And that means, and our very egocentric selves are like, well, human is like obviously the most superior of all, and there couldn't possibly be any other. And it's so egotistical that it makes me laugh, that I'm like, we really are that egocentric, where it's like we just think the whole universe, that's it, we're just it, there's no other. And it's like, no, but like we're the actual aliens too. Like, it makes me giggle.
Well, I thought that was interesting, because I actually just did some like Google searching, because I'm all the way through tablet 8, so I'm not actually through all the tablets, but like the whole time I've been listening and I've been thinking, well, wait, what is this? Like, for example, what are the halls of what is it again?
The halls of Amenti.
Amenti. I couldn't think of the word. And then I was thinking, and who is Thoth? And like apparently Egyptians worship Thoth, and as like a moon god or something. So then I'm like, oh, okay. So did was that because they had the Emerald Tablets themselves? So they read the Emerald Tablets and then worshipped this like deity, or did they interact with him? You know?
Yes. So he was an Atlantean king. So for Atlantis, he was the king of Atlantis. And that was during like the time when we had really advanced technology. The reason it fell, obviously, is because there was a collapse, because of the advancements in technology, and civilization was not using it like wisely. So basically it was its own demise. And then there's a lot more to I really am like, I truly think, Melissa, like, I know you didn't want to read this book particularly, you wanted to like listen to it, but I'm telling you, the actual compendium literally answers all of what you're asking. Like, there's the history in it. He goes through all of what you're talking about, like how it's related to the Egyptian and the Bible, and I think that's actually what I liked most about Billy Carson's style was that he related it to the Bible. So it could like could see the bridge between the two kind of worlds. Actually, I'm going to skip to that part, the history of it. Most ancient texts are written on animal skins. Very few writings are found on stone or baked tablets, and that's why like most of the ancient like history is lost because of what it was written on. Well, the emerald tablets have not, or they did not perish, basically, like because of the material it was done on. Thoth ruled Egypt at a time. He was also ruling Egypt for 16,000 years, from 50,000 to 36,000 BC. He became the highest of highest priests of ancient Atlantis, trained by his own father, the master of masters of pre-Diluvian Atlantis. Thoth ascended to Earth, where he led the development of a new civilization in the northeast corner of Upper Africa, also named Kem, or Egypt. So that kind of answers what you're talking about. Like, who is this guy? No, he was like a real, he was a priest, he was a king, all of that.
Where did they find the emerald tablets?
So they were found in South America and then transported by Dr. Durrell in like the 1930s to Egypt, is my understanding. Or the inverse. Hold on. I'm like, am I mixing the two? Anyway, let's see. The Great Pyramid of Giza. I'm just seeing if any of this part is relevant. So then there's a part that talks about Sir Isaac Newton, and he actually breaks down each of the 15 tablets in more of like a comprehensible one sentence way. So number 1, the first tablet, "'Tis true without error, certain and most true." But I'm also like, what does that even mean? So, right. So then I'm going to go to the actual first tablet. And this is where I really started lighting up, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's just a lot in here. It's basically like trying to understand scripture. But, it's up to interpretation at the same time, because we don't have all the answers. But he does state, Billy says, "I will establish the true source of the teachings of Jesus." So his claim is that the content of the emerald tablets is the source of Jesus's teachings. And he really correlated it well to various Bible verses, etc. And I thought that was fascinating, because we read the Magdalene manuscript. Of course, I didn't know the correlation, but she talked about how there was like, the Book of the Dead, and there was these other texts that he learned from that she also learned from the Isis, right? And so I was like, interesting.
Just having that more Egyptian influence in general is so like taboo, or not like discussed, but it's like, okay, well, they fled to Egypt for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then in like apocryphal writings, right, Mary, his mother, has roots in Egypt.
Yeah.
And as well as Mary Magdalene. And so it's like, well, it would make sense that there would be some Egyptian influence. And where, and then I find it really interesting too, and maybe this is a tangent, but like how many like idols from the Egyptians were women. And so then you're like, but it's curious that throughout scriptures any mention of a divine feminine is eradicated. And so then it's like, was it idol worship, or was it actually just acknowledgement of a divine mother? Anyway, so so that makes sense to me that there would be this Egyptian influence.
I agree. And as you read this, you really start to see the various correlations. It's like, oh, okay. So Thoth said, "Not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward." And so what I broke that down to mean, oh wait, where is it? I wrote it down, but I'm not finding it. Okay, never mind. But Jesus says in the New Testament book, John 7:38, he that believes in me, out of his being shall flow rivers of living water. So, because he says river of life flows eternally onward. And halls of Amenti is like it's the passageway between life and death is what it is. So it's like the passageway between lives is actually what it means. So they go in, they die of this lifetime, they go through the halls of Amenti, and then are born anew in the new life. That's what that means. I mean, if you think about Egyptian like history, that's what they believe. That's why they prepared their pharaohs, mummification is because they were going to pass through the translation of one life to the next.
I had looked up that too in Wikipedia about like where are the halls of Amenti, because I was not picking up on the fact that it wasn't a place. But there are some other philosophies that it was an actual place. For example, the sorry, I didn't leave it up. I should have. But there's like a tomb kind of secret thing found underneath. All right. Hold on here.
While you look that up, I will say this. Bill Carson, the guy who wrote the book, is actually supposed to have a tour. Like you can travel with them. Like I think I don't remember what he says, but I just remember him talking about the Egyptian tour.
Yeah, it's this September. Yeah, he does. I think he does 1 or 2 a year. So that's kind of cool.
Potentially some sort of mystical realm or a Stargate or even a hidden cavity found under the Sphinx.
Yeah. No, but like that's an actual thing. I'm like, that's real.
Well, but does it relate to the halls of Amenti or like how? Like, what do you mean?
It is the halls of Amenti. It's the physical representation of the spiritual reference.
Oh, so like if somebody had a near-death experience or something, and then they came back and they were like, okay, here's what this looks like, and they made it.
Yeah, or my other understanding as I read this was that so like with Thoth, he didn't have like what we would consider a death. He had like an ending of a timeline essentially, and then he would go through the halls of Amenti, be educated with the I understand it to be basically like you touched on it. It's a Stargate portal is what you called it. Yeah. So he would go through that, have the conversations, and then bring the knowledge and wisdom back with him that he gathered there for us. That's what I've understood it to be.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's out there, but
no, it's so cool. Well, and it kind of like, because didn't you at the beginning say that some people say that maybe Jesus was Thoth?
Correct. He also said that. Yes, that's what
in your book.
Yeah.
See, that's probably why I didn't buy it, because I'm like, oh, can I just read the direct thing? But then I'm like, well, okay, but there's a lot of open questions when you just read the direct thing.
Yeah. Yep. I promise you, I'm like, this is because I've tried. So I tried reading the Emerald Tablets about 3 years ago, and I got a couple tablets in. And then I moved to New Zealand and I was understanding it. It was like not Greek to me. And then I moved to New Zealand, which was a massive timeline jump or quantum leap, really. And I literally tried to listen to it again. It was some foreign language that I could not translate in any way, shape, or form. Like I was like, what is he even saying? Like, and so now I'm like, this is so cool that I'm reading it and I'm fully understanding it, but I'm also doing it in support by being supported by Billy Carson's kind of perception of how he's interpreted and studied things. And So Thoth talks about 100 times 10, which is what, 10,000, have I descended the dark way that led into light. And as many times as I have ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. So to me, that's reincarnation communication there. He's talking about reincarnating. And now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem, which Chem is, he's referring to the people of Egypt, which is actually where we get the word alchemy from. Alchemy. And alchemy is, to transmute or change.
Wait, alchemy comes from what?
Chem. So Khem, people of Egypt.
Oh, cool. So alchemy is like magic of Egypt.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, so much of what we're talking about now has been around for centuries, but because it's like just being introduced, it gets labeled new age, and it's actually ancient wisdom being brought up to like modern times, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's so new age. It's like, actually, no,
It's old age.
baby, not the content. But so halls of Amenti, so he says that he has descended into the halls of Amenti, where there is a regeneration chamber. We can understand that concept of cellular regeneration. He says he spent a total of 10,000 years regenerating his avatar over the course of many eons. Thoth also references the river of life, stating, I began this incarnation from eon to eon where the river of life flows eternally onward. Remember how Jesus makes the same reference, whoever believes in me, as scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. So meaning we will have eternal life through Christ. And that's what they're saying, Thoth was also referencing. Okay. Thoth talks about, in a time yet unborn, will I rise again? And Billy makes a correlation between how Christ talks about this rising again, that's, and that's kind of how he's also making the correlation. And what's his name? Billy mentions how did Jesus Christ, sometimes referred to as Yeshua, teach reincarnation? And he says, yes, Jesus did teach reincarnation. He says a reincarnation appears in the Old Testament. Read the last words of the Old Testament book of Malachi. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Basically saying that God was speaking to Malachi, and he was a famous prophet, saying that Elijah is going to come again. So there is reference to, that's kind of his way of saying there is reference to reincarnation in Christ. But it doesn't behoove religious contexts or structures to have people believe that they can come back again and again. Because why? They're less controllable. Because if I believe that, oh well, I'll just screw up and I can come back again, it's no big deal, you have less control over that. Like, it's way more unpredictable than if people are like, no, this is my one and only shot. If you believe this is your one and only shot, how much harder are you going to work to make sure you get it right? A lot. But then you'll always feel like a failure. So then you'll never actually succeed because you're just stuck in the cycle of like karmic suffering, really. He does talk a lot about water. Oh, this is the other thing I really liked about Thoth. He refers to basically us as the children of light. And I was like, oh, because there's all this talk about like light workers and light warriors and this light movement. And ancient text refers to us as children of light. And so it's not, again, it's not some new age movement that there's light workers. It's like, we are the light. And it goes even back to like the conversation regarding Christ. It's like, we are to embody Christ's light because we are the children of light. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's really cool. And I was really struck. I think in 7 or 8, there was a lot of talk about light and darkness, and
okay, hold on.
And it was it was like everything that we've ever thought about light and darkness. Like, I was just kind of surprised, like he's like the age old, war between light and darkness, and
Yeah.
ultimately light will always win and all of that stuff. And that,
Yeah.
I don't know, was comforting, right? It was like,
Yeah.
this is
That's
cool.
it's so true, because again, if we know that this goes back centuries upon centuries, this knowledge of light and dark, I mean, the battle between good and evil, we've got Lucifer and Christ. There's this constant talk. It doesn't matter what language you're using or words, we're all saying the same thing. And it goes back to this far, where it's like, yeah, there is something going on, where there's those who are working with the lights and those who aren't. And that's what I was going to talk about with Atlantia or Atlantis, is that it collapsed because, and this was, I get chills from this part. I read this in here and I was like, oh, everything I've been saying about Atlantis from my soul memory was confirmed when I read. Basically, yeah, it was like, whoa, this is like, I'm not making this up. And I know that, but like, it was just cool to see it in writing. Basically, the hearts of man had been soured by technology, by the advancements that they had made. And so they were their own demise and destruction, which, what are we witnessing now? We're witnessing this rise of technology. And so we have a chance again to either be wise fiduciaries of it or be our own demise and destruction. And so, unfortunately, the current timeline that we are on does look like it'll be a repeat at present. There is many opportunities for shifting, but what I was responsible for when I was in Atlantis was portaling people into different dimensions that were light workers, so that way they could get off of Atlantis and go do the work. And there were a lot of innocent people lost, like lives lost and so on. So it was just really cool to read this and be like, holy shit, like I have actual memories of that and I'm not making it up. Like, it was very, very cool to have that confirmation.
To add to that too about their demise, I thought it was really interesting. Also, there was a couple of different things, because I have been more lately kind of questioning the typical narrative around light and darkness. And it was interesting because he said, and I put this in the messenger chat, like, they like men were calling on the powers of darkness without realizing it,
Yeah.
and and some of that stuff, and that was interesting. And then, but it was also interesting because before that, I think in 5, he said something about like they had gotten out of balance in darkness. But
Yeah.
he said, he didn't say, like, the way that it was framed, it was not like it was like, because you need to have a balance with light and darkness,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. And that's what, like, my spirit has been leaning more towards, is not like a total rejection of any darkness, because
It's an integration.
yeah, because it felt like cutting out parts of me or something, and trying to understand the darkness that brings outcomes that I like, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I liked that.
So in I think I'm on 8. Am I in 8 or 7? I'll have to double check. But I'll read a part that kind of references what we're talking about. Turn not thy face from the light. Thy soul dwells in realms of brightness. Ye are a child of the light. And I put a / child of God, because like that's kind of a context. And I'm like, oh, that equals the same thing. Turn thy thoughts inward, not outward. Find thou the light soul within. So like all of the movement that's going on, like love yourself, all of that, it's not because we've got to be egocentric. It's more so that way we can hyper activate the light within. So when we're moving through the dark, we are the embodiment of light itself. Know that thou art the master. all else is brought from within, meaning if you want to, do anything externally, you don't have to go outward, you're going to go inward, which again, this is the whole movement that we've all been hearing over and over again in this, whether you're in coaching, in the woo world, in religious contexts. So it was really neat to have this be like, this is literally ancient text that has somehow been able to make its way through the various generations and been modified accordingly. So I just thought it was really neat. Grow thou to realms of brightness, hold thou thy thought on the light. So it's like, yes, you're going to have moments through dark realms and so on, but like hold your vibration or your thought at that light frequency. So that way you can know thou art one with the cosmos. What I think of with that is our cosmic role, our role in the cosmic plan, in the cosmos. It's like, what is your role? How do you play a part in the grand scheme of what's happening minutely as well as on the macro? A flame and a child of light. Turn not to the dark brothers that come from the brothers of black, but keep thine eyes ever lifted, thy soul in tune with the light. Take ye this wisdom and heed it. List to my voice and obey. So basically, like, oh, and then he said, who is it? Is it Thoth? No, it's Billy says, left alone, humanity is bound by its natural form and understanding, but Thoth is the supreme and ultimate light from which emanates ultimate existence, through which he and even man may find true consciousness. So it just more kind of just about that light. Like, this is more confirmation that we're all on that same path of working together to create that end goal of not letting the dark brothers take over, because that even confirmed for me that, you know how there's like this it's been labeled conspiracy theory now, but like there's this whole elites and there's all this dark.
I totally was thinking about that the whole time I was listening.
Yep. It's exactly what's going, but this is going back that many centuries is what we're doing.
Exactly.
So it's like, this isn't a new thing. I'd always, again, it fascinates me that we're so egocentric that we're like, this is new and this applies because I say it's new.
But that bugs me so bad. Like, that brings up like a huge cognitive dissonance, because I just feel like, okay, then why haven't like we all just been wiped from the planet? Like, why hasn't there been like mass punishment so that all of this like satanic ritual abuse and crap can just be eradicated? Like, why is that permitted to go on, you know?
Because, well, I don't have all the answers, but the answers that I've been given is that they can't eradicate us. They being let's say the dark brothers, because that's what he refers to them as, because who would they harvest then? They're not going to harvest each other. So they have to keep us perpetually in the trauma, the karmic, the drama cycle, so that way we loop back through. And then this is kind of a side note of something else I've been learning, is that we essentially pass down genetic frequencies. So not just like genetics and diseases and stuff like that, frequencies of diseases. So say an ancestor from 4 generations back had yellow fever. Well, that frequency of that disease may pass on through the generations. And so you don't necessarily have yellow fever, but your cells are holding on to that vibration. And so why did I go there? Hold on. Why did I bring that in? Hold on. Do you guys know? Like,
she was questioning in regards of why don't we just get eradicated?
oh,
And I was gonna piggyback off of that real quick of like, think about the Matrix. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but basically they needed us for the energy. They were using us as, and talk about, you're talking about earlier about like you've seen this in the book. Like, I had a dream of the Matrix, so when I saw it on the movie screen, it freaked me the fuck out.
I bet.
I was like,
really
what the hell? I was like, ugh. So, but no, I'm just thinking in that terms, is like, you know, utilizing us as batteries and energy. They need us to have the trauma and have all this fear and everything else like that, because that's what feeds them.
Correct.
If
And
they eradicate us, then they got no energy.
correct. That would serve no purpose for them to eradicate us.
Well, I meant more actually like God. You know, like a flood like Noah's times, or like, you know, and maybe that is it. Maybe like all these, or like the Atlanteans, maybe that is what has happened, is there have been you know, mass, like, okay, reset
Reset,
button.
redo.
There have been there the Tartarians, I mean, think of all the fallen civilizations that once were. They no longer are because of their own demise. But in regards to, let's say, God's involvement, my understanding, again, I'm but a human with certain memories, not all, is that
Yeah,
we
you're an alien.
goes into this life because we knew what needed to be done, as far as free agency was involved. Like, he can't come in and be like, all right, I'm done with this bullshit, we're zap over it. Like, you know, of all people know that that's not how it could or ever will work. We as a conscious collective have to move as one body and bring back or embody Christ light. That's how you're going to have that flood of that movement. Until that, God's hands essentially are tied, in my opinion, because we chose to be free agents here. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's interesting
Mm.
because I go back to you know, last year we studied the Old Testament. Well, we meaning my church.
Mhm.
I personally hate the Old Testament. I can't stand it. Like, I'm like, I have a relationship with a loving Heavenly Father.
You
I
know?
know Jesus Christ, He's amazing.
Yeah.
And then I read the Old Testament and I'm like,
This
what?
punishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you referencing?
Jealous, evil, not
Yeah.
evil, but a jealous God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really shook me. So it's like, okay, well, you know, there was the flood of Noah, and then, you know, there is this, like, this time it will be by fire. And I guess I just have bigger questions, and probably it's so easy to just live distracted and not go ask the questions.
Mhm.
You're really good at asking the questions, Sabrina. I appreciate that about you. Like, you're like, I have a question. I am going to go and I am going to pray and I am going to take the time and I'm going to study and all the things. And I'm more like, I just don't know.
Did you just tell me all the things? Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's what I like about this book, or even the tablets, is that it gives a point of view that I truly believe has been compressed, compressed, and suppressed by the mainstream society that we are living in, because it's like stuff that we know deep in our souls, but why is it not being made available? Because who's in charge? We don't have enough of the collective movement, because people, like, say, the witches, they figured out that the herbs could heal. What did they do? They got rid of that. They don't want people figuring it out on their own and being empowered. And now we're in modern times and you've got people going, that's a problem. You're moving our government into like fascism here or whatever it is. And what do? Label them, make sure that you shun and shame them away. So just as we start to kind of move as one body, there's a the way I see it is they've been doing this for a lot of centuries, but so have we. And if we can just band together and remember that, like, I may say children of light, somebody else might say children of God, somebody else might say Christ light. Like, we're actually all on one family, like literally. And as more and more people really grasp and accept that, doesn't matter if you're trans, you're gay, you're straight, black, white, no matter what, we're all one body moving together. That's when we'll have the actual, like, freedom to transmute or alchemize what's going on. But until then, we basically, yeah, we're not winning right now. That much I do know. We have made a lot of progress, more than any other civilization throughout history, because of our technology, but also what's coming out now, AI. So AI can be our friend and it can also be our enemy. And it's going to be really interesting. Anyway, that was a
It's
side.
called a frenemy.
Yeah, frenemy. Yeah. Because if we, well, this is a bit of a tangent about AI, but if we don't need to use our own consciousness, let's say to write a book or write a post on Facebook, what is the of us? What we all we have to come up with is 2 seconds of thinking, and then a computer's going to do the rest. It's like, but that's what it wants, is us to be dependent on the technology. And I think you and I, Melissa, have actually talked about this as well. Or was that you and me, Sonia? I know I've talked about this with somebody. Okay, it was Melissa.
It was. Yeah, I actually just listened to those messages a couple hours ago on Marco.
Was she in the car?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, this is where I'm Marco, okay? It's like my thing now. I'm just like, this is what I do. I very rarely Marco at home anymore because
You're not there.
well, yeah, I like to be present with my family. And so, yeah, and I don't know. So I do sometimes, but I find that like they're just like, Mom, hey. And I'm like, I don't like telling them to go away. Like we're in our home, like, you know. So anyway, I wanted to go to Emerald Tablet 6. In the 6th tablet, Thoth exposes the fact that dark forces were already at work before he arrived on Earth. Okay. A real battle between dark and light. So this is kind of going back to what we originally started with, what you were saying, using magic spells to control the fate of the existing beings that were already here evolving on Earth. You have the power to alter the events inside your reality tunnel. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Caden, my 19-year-old, texts me and he's like, I should just I'm going to read you the text. It was really, really cool. Because so he's a Scorpio sun, and is he a Scorpio rising? Yeah, he's a Scorpio. He's got a lot of Scorpio. So what that means is Scorpios dive in deep into like the underworld and subconscious world and all the things that a lot of other people don't really think about. Anyway, so he writes me this, I've been thinking about this whole manifesting thing, and I've got a theory that manifesting is 100% true. It's just to an extent though. Like, you can definitely create something you put your mind toward, but for a while I was stuck on the fact that, well, what if you tried manifesting someone to die, right? It doesn't typically happen. I'm like, this is such a Scorpio text. Who just thinks of that? So why I'm saying that is like he's thinking in these ways, and the more we can get more people kind of just conscious of the subconscious and what's going on underneath, that's how we have the power to alter the events inside of our reality. That's why, like, okay, say for example with you, Melissa, your work with the intimacy and the marriage and the family is crucial, and it's crucial in the sense that not everybody's plugged into a religion, right? And really, because a lot of religions have this very focal point on marriage, on family, but not everyone's plugged into that. So how do they get access to that knowledge and wisdom unless they're plugged in? So that's why people like you, which I call us the 4D bridges, we like bridge the gap between the dimensions or worlds to bring the information, because it's all the same. It's just, and this is even confirmed throughout all of what Thoth has been talking about. Hold on, I want to
While
go.
you look at that,
Also,
Melissa, I
too.
have a movie for you.
Go for it.
Ooh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because I keep hearing the word intimacy and everything else like that. And if you like to laugh, you are going to totally enjoy this movie. Sabrina, you can write it down too because it's a funny one. It's called The Love Guru.
It's funny.
I can't remember the dude's name. Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Is the main guy, but he plays like this Indian guy who's trying to be like the next Deepak Chopra. And he's like, he has an acronym for intimacy. Into me, I see. aspects of
Yeah.
intimacy. So
Oh,
every time you
yeah.
say intimacy, I just keep thinking that. And
Me.
she just talks about with
That's
what you kind of
awesome.
do. So it might be
Thank you.
entertaining and funny.
Well, and actually, that's what I was gonna say because that's what I teach. Like, I teach intimacy from like a 5D perspective, basically. I'm just now finally owning that and realizing that. But anyway, um, but like even you have this, you have like religion teaches a 3D perspective of marriage, and then you have all these people who are miserable, totally wandering around like zombies and hate their marriages and hate being a mother because they feel like they have to self-sacrifice constantly and all this stuff. And it's like, wait a second, this is not how this is supposed to be. Um, you know, and so I think it's still pertinent. Like, if people don't wake up to the 5D, they're never going to be happy in their marriages. That's just the reality.
It is very true. And it's like if well, and I think we talked about this with the Magdalene manuscript, the like sex magic. Like in the 3D realm, it's just sex. But when you start having 5D sex, it's like a whole different ball game. Like it's
Yeah.
like a whole different experience that
I love Sonia's face.
what do you mean, bro?
Yeah, I was waiting for that. You haven't said bro yet. So I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah. What is this? Okay.
So
I'm naive in regards to some of the stuff. So what
5D
is that?
is well, it's your souls are making love. It's not just
Hell
like
yeah, I like that.
huh?
I said, hell yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And so there's breath work. There's it's just a consciousness unification during the process that happens. And we've used it as sex magic. So like anything we want to manifest, we like implant the seed of that manifestation. It sounds so weird saying it out loud, but yep, that's what we do and have done. But yeah, that is that next level. That's that next layer of 5D intimacy, 5D sex. It's not just what's like what we are so hardwired and programmed to experience sex as is so like rudimentary. Is rudimentary the right word?
I think
So
so. Yeah,
like
like surface
missionary.
level. Yeah.
So child. It's like the
Cuddle
child
hole in
version.
a
Yeah,
blanket.
it's like first grade. And when you start doing 5D lovemaking, it's like literally you've graduated some sort of levels.
Yeah.
So would you agree? Yes, Melissa?
Yep. 100% to all of that. Yep.
Yeah, it definitely shifts it. So, all right, moving back out of that and into this, we're just going to next. Could these verses be the original source of the yin and yang concept? Okay, so he just again it talks about that light and dark. And then he said an aspect of yin and yang are opposites, are interdependent, which means that yin cannot exist without yang, and yang cannot exist without yin. Their very existence depends on each other. And speaking of interdependence, it's like a lot of people, they're either codependent or independent. But where we get to be is interdependent. And again, that's kind of like going into what you do, Melissa, where it's like talking about that intimacy, like you're really balancing your own sovereignty with their sovereignty. And we're not having to like be so dependent on them that our happiness is wrapped up in it, or so independent that we don't even care about them. It's like, no, like we do. We've got to
Did
bring.
you feed the dogs yet? Oh, sorry.
No, they didn't. And I like that Billy breaks down kind of like yin and yang attributes. Oh, okay. So I'll read this. Send through the body a wave of vibration, irregular first and regular second, repeating time after time until free. Start the wave force in thy brain center, direct it in waves from thine head to thine foot. Basically, what he is doing and teaching is to ground with sound. And I was like, oh, he's teaching like meditation essentially, like but with sound and the vibration, so that way each cell is able to participate. Hold on, I'm just looking. Only by knowing can thou overcome it. Only be wisdom can thou hope to be free. And I wrote knowledge equals power, which we know, and wisdom equals freedom. That's what I gathered from that. Oh, this was nice too. Call to the spirit of light through the space and time, using these words, and thou shalt be free. Fill thou my body, O spirit of life, fill thou my body with spirit of light. And I was just like, it's a prayer. Like he doesn't call it that, but that's literally what we're doing. And so he teaches even chakra meditation. He talks about the 7 chakras. There's one, Thoth tells the reader to speak the following names aloud: Untanas, Kortas, Chiatal, Goyana, Hortal, Simveta, Ardal. And they are frequencies that, when spoken aloud, send out specific vibrational frequencies that have a direct effect on our brain, which in turn have an effect on your personal reality tunnel. So basically, these are activating frequencies to shift your reality. So if you ever want to have a timeline shift, go to page 118 of this book. Because
that's like pretty much where I just finished reading too. And I was so intrigued by that because I've done a lot of studying Kundalini mantras and stuff. And a lot of that is the same thing. And like the Sanskrit language and stuff, there's a lot about like where your tongue touches the roof of your mouth and how that activates different parts of your like your pineal gland and different things. And then too, I love the concept of well, there's 2 things that it makes me think of. I love the concept that there are sounds that can help us in our ascension. And then it makes me think, crap, like the English language is the lowest vibration.
It is. And words that we use in our English language are binding us. Like good morning. Why are we mourning? What do we do? Like it should be grand rising. And there's very specific words that I learned about in 2020 actually, that I was like, oh, we're literally binding ourselves to these spells. And that's why they call it spelling, is because we are literally casting spells upon ourselves.
Yeah. That's fascinating. My son is super, super sensitive to that stuff. And we actually just took him out of school because he can't stand kids saying mean stuff and cuss words. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I even say a cuss word here and there. And I was sort of like, where did you get this passion from? But like it actually hurts his spirit. And so I've been studying more about like the spells that, and the curses and that kind of thing. It's so fascinating.
Yeah. And even like television, it tells us what to see. Television. Programming, we're literally there's so many all throughout. It's when you start noticing it, you're like, we're gonna shift that word. That's why I don't say I'm sick. I always say I'm upgrading. If I'm upgrade. Because all we're doing is anchoring in being sick. Like I don't want to anchor that in. I'm anchoring in an upgrade because my body knows what to do, and it's also doing it in a way that will ensure that I'm not going to go through the same virus again. Like, right? So Billy Carson talks about, he references Mozart and the effects of music on seizures. He talks about cymatics. It is matter affected by outside influences. Cymatics are, as well as frequency, help to create what we perceive as matter. So what's been fascinating, I don't know if you guys know, but I got given access to technology that basically listens to 15 seconds of your voice and then can pick up what notes you're over accentuating or under accentuating or suppressing. And then it will give you a custom sound bath to fill in or give you the supporting note that you need. And I got that before I read this, and I was like, this is crazy. Like basically what I've been given is the cymatics, where it's like adjusting your frequency. And it was cool because again, I feel like I'm in this movement right now where I'm educating people Okay, Sonia. I'm educating people on this like new thing, and it's a sci-fi technology, and it's like, bro, this goes back to freaking Galileo and Da Vinci and Mozart. Like, what are you talking about? This is ancient wisdom, but it's only new because it has been forgotten and been erased and suppressed because it's that powerful. Okay, go first, Sonia.
So I had a question from a couple of things back. You were mentioning the names and stuff like that to help with the different stuff. Is those at all in our book that we have, the Anahata code?
Mm-mm.
Those names? Okay. I was just
No,
curious.
but I want to take a picture of that page and I'll send it to the group. We'll know what it is. Other people be like, "What are you?"
You just have to send it to the group and then also to probably say the name, how to say it.
Mhm.
Because people like me be like, yeah.
And then Clandini, Cladney, thank you. Ernst Cladney, there we go. Sorry, sir, German. Discoveries in the theory of sound. Sound waves were responsible for creating areas of vibration and areas of stillness. And he also basically terminologied the word wave as we understand it. It's but we actually aren't experiencing a wave at all. We are experiencing a spiral when it comes to sound. It's really fascinating. I'm like, oh, okay. So then this part just goes over the history and the effects of various scientists throughout the generations who've specifically studied the effects of sound on our physical being. We all know the one where Dr. Masaru Emoto has the water, writes words of love on the water, and it like gives the what do you call it? The molecules are all beautiful, and then when it's like evil, polluted, you make me sick, it's all diseased looking. And that's why it's so important as beings of light who are made up of 80% or more of water, vital that we are speaking to ourselves so lovingly, because we are bringing ourselves down, which again, we're just kind of victim to the cycle, the circumstances that we've been born into. But yeah, okay. I'm going to move forward. Any other thoughts before I do? Okay.
I have 4 more minutes. That's my thought.
What time are we at? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to say we have 5, but 4 works.
Well, you have 5. I have 4.
What are you doing?
Oh,
Okay.
shit.
Okay, so he talks about astral projection, which again, I thought was really cool because I got introduced to astral projection when I was 16. I learned that my mom could do it, that my nan could do it. And I was like, well, how do I do it? I want to do it. And then my mom taught me how. And that night I astral projected. She was like, so you're going to do this, this, and this. And sure enough, I did exactly that. I fell backwards into this abyss of darkness. And as I was falling into like a weaved basket looking of like colors, pastel colors. And I was falling. And then as I fell through the basket of colors, weaved colors, I then was looking down at my body on the bed. It wasn't that I was detached from my body. It was that I like it was still linked. So that wasn't like I was gone, but I was able to astral project in that way. And I was just like, this is so freaky. This is so cool. But it was one of my most distinct memories. And then I think I might have even been younger when I very first learned about astral projection from my mom, but she taught me at 16 because I remember being 8 or 9 being like, my mom's taking a nap, but she could totally be watching me right now.
Oh.
I was like, I gotta be super good because she's probably watching me. Yep.
Your mom literally had eyes in the back of her head.
She literally did though. And yeah, because I used to eavesdrop on conversations she had with her friends and she would talk about her experiences astral projecting. So then yeah, when I turned 16, I was like, I want to know how. Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of a fun thing to do, but I don't have to do it that way anymore. That's what I do with the quantum. I do those sessions instead. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. All right. But again, it was really neat to see all of that as something that wasn't just made up. It's like been confirmed that, it's ancient practices. I think that kind of wraps us up. What did I put here? I wrote down our actions create greater effects. Oh man, be sure the effects that ye bring forth are ever causes of more perfect effects. Know ye the future is never in fixation, but follow man's free will as it moves through the movements of time and space toward the goal where a new time begins. So basically what I understand that to mean is, even though we're on one timeline, that doesn't mean we're permanently there. We all can like move in a different direction and create based on free will. I like this too. Imagine that your thoughts are money. Do not spend them on frivolous things. Invest your thoughts wisely. That was not Thoth. That was Billy. We'll wrap up. I see man as lightborn, free from the darkness that fetters the soul. Fetters means fear. Living in light without the bounds of the darkness to cover the light that is light of their soul. Man has risen and man has fallen as ever new waves of consciousness flow from the great abyss below us toward the sun of their goal. So I just think it goes back to, or down to, we need to all just stay focused on the same goal. We're here for love, light, and freedom. Yeah. Willow's done. All righty.
Talk about freedom. We out.
All right. Any departing thoughts? Love you. Melissa, where'd you go?
You disappeared too. I was leaving. See, I told you 1 minute.
Yeah. Gonna go. Love you guys. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.